Hey everybody, Kale here. Welcome back to the channel. So today we are going to do a Celtic cross spread. It's a templated spread that Jessica Roux writes about in her Tarot of the Woodland Wardens deck, and I'm actually going to use it for the Oracle deck. She has a companion Woodland Wardens Oracle deck, and so I'm going to use the Celtic cross spread for the Oracle cards. And or I've already used them actually. I sit in ceremony beforehand most often and write down the messages and the cards and etc. And then I will show you them in this video. And so I'm veering slightly from, I think, the intention of each card. I'm keeping the overall theme, like the present, the obstacle, the past, but I'm sharing it in more of a contemplative way, and less of a, here I'm speaking to your specific situation and it's just this one situation that I'm providing information around. I'm going to speak like each thing as if it's its own and whatever that is for you, okay, and inviting you to contemplate the aspect, like the card that comes through, contemplating that quality or whatever it is within that situation, more than it being specifically directive, or like telling you what's going to happen or how things are going to go. It's an invitation to contemplate. Okay, and so let's go ahead and get started with the first card representing the present. Okay, and so to me, when it comes to this present moment, what is a quality that you can pay attention to? What is an aspect? How is it showing up for you in the present? And we have the duck and chrysanthemum, okay, and that is the card of luck. And we actually pulled this card in reverse, all right? And so one of the things that's written in the guidebook is Seneca's quote, luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity. Okay, and so that comes to mind, obviously, well, this was written in the guidebook. And then the other aspect, especially with this reversal, is getting your ducks in a row. Okay, and so what does that mean for you right now around getting ducks in a row? What does that mean for you around luck? How does that play a role in your life? What does it mean around luck happening when it's preparation meets opportunity? And is there an aspect of your life right now that does fit that? You know, that you are preparing for something, or that you've been waiting for something. How does that orient you in the present? Or is there nothing? Is there a reality that this reflection is actually perhaps making you realize, there isn't something I feel that I'm preparing for. You know, I'm not seeking any opportunity for something. I'm not needing that. I'm not desiring that. I actually have and am experiencing all that I'm wanting to experience. And what a wonderful feeling. You know, and so just how does that word, how does that experience kind of orient itself in your life right now? So again, luck's what happens when preparation meets opportunity and getting your ducks in a row. Okay. So the second card we have is the card for the obstacle. So one, is there an obstacle in your life right now? Perhaps there's not. Great. And if there is, the invitation is to take a look at, where was it? Here. No. There's the card. I was like, I've lost the card. The dragonfly and pansy. Okay, the dragonfly and pansy. And this one originally, like, it was like this in the cross. And so I don't know whether it's upright or reverse. Maybe it's both. We'll take it as an invitation for both signs. And this is the card of balance. Okay, and I'm going to read from the guidebook here. Perching with a delicate grace, the dragonfly is a symbol of balance. Nimble and attuned as a dancer, it moves effortlessly through the air, shifting direction with ease. Pansies are named for the French word penser, meaning thought, and were given by the Victorians as tokens of thoughtfulness. Together, the dragonfly and pansy indicate a harmony of thought and action. So in upright, it means like a dragonfly hovering above water, you are healthy and confident. Your physical skill is matched by your mental and emotional strength. Okay, and then the reverse is, you have stumbled into an unhealthy obsession. Recall the way a dragonfly shifts direction with ease and aim for the same nimbleness of thought. Okay, and again, this is for the obstacle. If there is an obstacle in your life right now, all right, and so either you are handling it very well, like you have a good balance around it, or perhaps a little bit more balance is needed in order to navigate through this time. Balance came up in a previous reading, and so I think there's something with that. And then a couple questions to ask are, is my attention shared among my various interests and endeavors, or do I tend to favor just one? Which I don't think is inherently a negative thing. I think it's a great question for yourself of if that feels balanced for you or not. Another question is, am I satisfied by how I spend my time and energy? If not, perhaps it's time for a shift. And then how can I build more balance into my life? So a great card for contemplation here, with balance as it relates to any potential obstacles in your life. Or also, are you sensing a lack of balance in any area or direction, and know that perhaps continuing in an imbalanced way will lead to an obstacle, perhaps. So mindfulness there, all right? Our third card represents the past. Okay, the third card represents the past, and we pulled the antelope and wheat. Okay, and this is the card of nourishment. And we actually pulled this in reverse. Okay, we pulled it in reverse. And so antelopes are strongly associated with community. And so what came through for me was wondering, if perhaps you might be looking towards the past, going back to the past for nourishment, instead of being with what's present. And one of the questions that comes up in the guidebook is, who or what makes me feel nourished? Who or what makes me feel nourished? And so I could go two ways with that as it relates to the past. One way is, okay, well, is there actually can you recall people or a place or a community or an experience or an activity in the past that you really enjoyed that was very nourishing, that may be worth bringing back around again? So considering that. Or are you holding on to a person or a place or community or activity from the past, seeking nourishment there, where it can actually no longer be found, that it's not actually what's going to nourish you most in this present moment, and perhaps there's something new that can bring about that nourishment? Okay. We have our fourth card, which is the card of the future. Okay, this is the card of the future, and we pulled the snail and huckleberry for that card. Okay, this was the only card other than the sideways one that came in upright. Everything else was a reversal. Okay, the snail and huckleberry, and that is a card that is asking us to trust in the invisible. Okay, to trust in the invisible. And I'm going to read a little bit from this. The determined and deliberate snail carries its home on its back. While it may seem like a simple, humble creature, the spiral of its shell portends great mystery, representing the cycle of life. Like the snail, the huckleberry is sometimes associated with smallness and insignificance. A huckleberry, in late 19th century slang, was a person of little consequence. However, it is a powerful fruit that grows plentifully, offering life-sustaining nutrients to both humans and woodland creatures. Together, the snail and huckleberry invite an appreciation for what is beneath the surface and trust in what cannot be seen. I just realized that I'm not in airplane mode. Hold on. And we're back. Okay. that last sentence again was, together the snail and huckleberry invite an appreciation for what is beneath the surface and trust in what cannot be seen. Okay, so the upright message here is, now is a good time to follow your bliss, trusting in invisible supports. With great risk comes great reward. Okay, and so I think no matter what here with this card across the board, the ask, the invitation is to trust more deeply in the invisible support, and whatever that means for you, whether that is, again, energetically, it's spiritually, it's specific, um, gods, guides, whatever, angels, natural elements, whatever that is for you. Perhaps it's a particular quality, or an energy like peace, or harmony, or the energy of trust itself. Whatever that, um, you know that anchoring authority is for you. And I'm mindful that for some is perhaps an external authority that they resonate with, and for others it is an internal authority. Okay, and so the ask here is simply to trust in what cannot be seen. All right, and then the couple questions here, and again, this is as it relates to the future. And so it's a great card to pull for the future, considering that it's not always something that we're seeing clearly. Yeah, so a couple questions for contemplation are, when have I benefited from trusting in subtle clues? And how can I look beyond appearances toward deeper meaning? Okay, what does it mean to you to trust in or rely in the invisible or in the unseen? All right, our fifth card, there's only 6. Okay, our fifth card is the card of goals or hopes and goals. All right, and so we pulled the Hawk and Thistle. The Hawk and Thistle, which is the card of graceful persistence, which what better card can you pull for like a card related to hopes, or like and goals, or not a card, but a theme, and so intention. And we actually pulled it in reverse. All right, and so I'm gonna go ahead and read a little bit from the guidebook here. Oh no, I think I took it out. Hold on. Silly me. There it is. All right. It is, yeah. So it was a reversal. The hawk is a keen and vigilant observer, so much so that watchful and hawk-eyed have become synonyms. An apex predator, the hawk glides gracefully on the wind, its sharp talons ever at the ready. The thistle can thrive in a variety of environments, from verdant hills to rocky shores. Its spiked, stinging leaves protect its radiant flower, which perches like a crown upon its stem. And I'm actually going to read the reversal message first. Okay, we pulled in reverse. It says, external pressures have weakened your resolve. Remember your worth and guard it closely. Okay, and then the upright message, I'm just going to show this. It says, you can act fiercely while maintaining your grace and dignity. Sharpen your talons, but don't lose your crown. I felt that those two messages really went well together, actually. And so, read together, it would say, external pressures have weakened your resolve. Remember your worth and guard it closely. You can act fiercely while maintaining your grace and dignity. Sharpen your talons, but don't lose your crown. And I love that. I love pulling this for a space around hopes and goals. And I'm putting dreams right in that. And so whatever it is that you're focused on, in any way, whether that is a spiritual goal, physical, it's mental, it's emotional, whatever it is. Perhaps it's an area of study, or something related to business, creativity, anything relational, a relationship goal, personal growth, whatever this thing is, a change in habit. All right, I think there's a call here for that graceful persistence. Okay, and really bringing a lot of love. And again, we're getting messages lately around grace, bringing that into the space as well. And a couple questions for contemplation are, am I too easily influenced by my environment? And how can I thrive in a difficult situation? Okay, so that's what we've got for that card. Okay, and our final card, number 6, we get it represents the subconscious. Okay, the subconscious. And the card we pulled was the Frog and Lotus. Okay, this is the card of metamorphosis. Okay, we've got the Frog and Lotus, the card of metamorphosis, and we did pull it as reversal. All right, so I'm gonna read a little bit here. This card reminds us that change is natural, rebirth is possible, and a healing balance can be achieved. There we are with balance again. The frog, developing as it does from a tiny tadpole, symbolizes transformation. The lotus flower, too, symbolizes rebirth, unfurling even amid murky waters. Going through such a change can be difficult and a struggle, but the resulting metamorphosis opens us to growth, self-acceptance, and happiness. Okay, this was a reversal. The reversal message says you cannot control everything in your life. Change is a part of nature, and it must be allowed to take its course. Remember that great beauty can result from metamorphosis. And so it also comes to mind for me, or as a possibility, is that perhaps there are some fears here. Fears that are helped by trusting in the invisible, but perhaps there are some subconscious fears as you navigate through this change. Okay, and so, and also, I mean, even just taking a quick glimpse at the upright, it says consider what in your life needs changing and think about the steps you can take to achieve that, which I imagine there are aspects of that as it relates to the hopes and goals, right? So that graceful persistence, and there's a connection, I think, and perhaps, perhaps is a correlation here with that. And so a couple questions are, what can I change in myself or my life for the better? And how can I be more accepting of change I cannot control? Okay, and a couple other messages that came from my heart, as it relates to this card, metamorphosis, perhaps fear, subconscious fear around change, is that, that this could also just represent like resistance to change. Again, those subconscious fears, and again, that's where that trust comes in. And then also that healing in general does change us. And I think that can be scary sometimes, and it can be difficult, particularly when the ways that we heal, grow, and change don't necessarily mesh with others, or perhaps, previous versions or iterations of ourselves seemed more socially acceptable, or perhaps more pleasing to others. Perhaps it seemed a little bit harmonious even with certain people, and now there seems to be a little bit more discord, and I think that can be challenging, and I can speak from my own personal experience that at times that has left me sometimes feeling like, oh man, like, did I do something wrong? Am I changing in a negative direction? And then there's this awareness or possibility of like, well, what if this is the true me? And sure, I'm always going to have things to grow through, but what if this is the most honest and authentic version of myself? And if I'm finding a challenge with that or difficulty, you know, perhaps it just simply means that it's an opportunity for me to just love myself even more there, for me to go to a deeper layer of extending myself grace, a deeper layer of self-acceptance. Whereas before, if perhaps there was perhaps more harmony or more ease and less rocking of the boat, that it can certainly give, or has given even myself an impression, that maybe that was like a better version, a more evolved version, a more spiritual version, a version that was somehow kinder, or more caring, or more compassionate. And I'm just not entirely convinced that that's true, even though perhaps certain relations were easier. There's also something with that. There was a little bit of distance, and maybe I'm really in the heart and in the mix of it, deeply feeling, being totally human, and recognizing that aspects of that former version, was really kind of trying to rise above it, almost kind of like bypass this humanity, and is like, no, I'm not human like that. I don't have those feelings. I don't have those thoughts. I don't have, those aren't my reactions. And to really kind of, not quite holier than thou. Sometimes some would say maybe a little bit, but really from a very genuine space, but being held in such a way that really, was a bit more inaccessible. Didn't make me as relatable, you know, and that these other more human, mucky versions, while sometimes challenging to accept, um, also just give me such a great opportunity to go deeper into the work, deeper into that love and acceptance, which I know then helps me extend that to others in ways that are maybe different than what I'm expecting. I think sometimes it can be a lot more kind of behind the scenes understanding, acceptance, and compassion. And sometimes it's not as obviously out front, if that makes sense. So, anyway, whatever's there for you in that, and perhaps you relate to aspects of that in your own journey. I come to you sharing vulnerably, and that's something I'm still grappling with, most certainly. And it makes sense to me in that in a journey of growth and authenticity, there can be times where it seems as though it would be kind of going backwards spiritually, but I think there's a potentially a reality where like that is the work, because unless we really sit with our own selves, right, it's the shadow work, right, like unless we really sit with that and can really love that about ourselves, you know, how can we truly love that and accept that and understand that about the rest of humanity? You know, I don't think we can. And Brene Brown has shared that, you know, let's say you're a helper, and you really you love, you know, you love people coming to you to talk about things, and you're there to support people, and you don't mind, and you're happy to help, but like you won't necessarily go and seek that same type of support, or you don't want to be vulnerable in that way, or perhaps you kind of judge it a little bit, like you feel like, oh, it's a weakness for me to do that, right? She says that like actually then like you're judging that person, like there is no way, like you're feeling superior to them in some way, there's no way you can judge that for yourself, you know, and not be holding another person in judgment no matter what you say. And then that's reminding me of Paul Selig's work, where he says, you know, or at least the channeled message is from the guides, you know, you cannot stand in the light and hold another in darkness. And even though the example I gave wasn't about, you know, judging another person, I think there's also a reality of like, well, you can't stand in the light and hold yourself in darkness either, right? And accepting all those human parts. So um, that's the work. That is the work. Challenging, I think, personally, but here we are. Here we are. So, thank you, friends. Thanks for being with me. Thanks, and for journeying through this first contemplative Celtic cross reading. And yeah, let's see what finds us in the next one. And I hope everyone has a wonderful week. We'll see you soon. Be well.